This first one is called Core. She kept an apple in her hand, the juices dripping from her teeth, and she didn't know how to make him bleed without killing him. She just wanted him to feel like she did. Another bite, the fruit glowing in the streetlight, the shadow against his curtains moving the way only two bodies can. Down to the core, she had nothing left to give him, but she set it on his doorstep anyway. He could grow an entire orchard from the seeds. Splinters. Most days are nothing like this feeling of forgetting about the time you called me darling. I had climbed a tree we both knew was too tall, too skinny, the branches thin and dangling like my wrists in sweater sleeves, and when the wind blew, I was tossed between the baskets woven between the leaves. Lullabies have always made me afraid of falling. You had to walk 1.5 miles down a hilly gravel road in the shoes with holes in the toes and soles before you found a neighbor who answered the door when you knocked and had a ladder that wasn't busy holding up the porch roof. I sent a thank you card, the bird feather I had climbed too high to get to begin with, pressed between the fold. But today is still, and you carry a chainsaw in the cradle of your hands now. How to share a bathroom. 1. I stood at the sink next to you and brushed my teeth in time with you humming through your floss. 2. You wouldn't meet my eyes in the mirror like you were afraid to see too much of what wasn't there, or maybe you already knew we only existed as shiny glass. 3. You left your towel on the floor because you knew how much I hated the way the watermarks stayed on the rug for days. 4. I like to draw faces in the steam that hugs the shower door. 5. When the cleaning lady comes on Tuesday because you claim we don't have enough time to clean up after ourselves, she will wipe away the smiles I try to leave for you. 6. I squeeze the toothpaste from the middle of the tube and leave the cap off more often than not, but you will never reprimand me. 7. You will never say more than you have to. This is my last poem. It's called Proof Left and Claim Staked. The heat that rose from the pavement matched the way she smiled at me when the first fat drops burst from the sky. In the middle of an abandoned outlet mall parking lot, nowhere Iowa felt bigger than I wanted her to know. She rattled a can of spray paint between her hands before dragging our initials across the faded lines and letting them blur into puddles. Now everyone will know that no one was here. And then this is a short little story that I have. It's just under 1,000 words. It's kind of a work in progress. I had some characters that I wanted to write about, and so this is what I came up with. Let's see how it goes. It's called Gravity. Still dressed in my night shift diner skirt and should have been ironed polo, Arlene deceivingly embroidered above the pocket, I pushed the shopping cart through the grocery store. My legs, bare because I'd found a run in my tights last night, were covered in goosebumps and aching for the extra warmth provided by the counter full of rotisserie chickens. Would the young lady like a slice of cheese? The woman behind the counter leaned across the top and smiled at my daughter as she handed me my sliced turkey. I gave Imogene a sideways look. Granny lady always lets me. She shrugged, her shoulders pushed tight against her ears. Granny lady would let you get an elephant if you wanted one. Imogene's eyes grew wide as she sucked in her breath, and I knew I had just made her Christmas wish list an impossibility. Colby Jack, I finally responded to the deli order. If you have it. Imogene was handed a slice of cheese tucked in a small square of wax paper. Thank you, Imogene shouted unprompted. She started to nibble the edges of the cheese as she led me away from the counter. Dressed in her pink snow boots, purple leggings, and her brother's hand-me-down Batman t-shirt, my 7-year-old had been the only one awake when I got home at nearly 8 in the morning. Granny lady was snoring gently in the recliner. The television turned to the channel that I know airs infomercials all night. Imogene had fixed a bowl of cereal for me and poured almost all the juice into my glass. Are you going grocery shopping today? She had her elbows on the table and her chin resting on the top of her fingers. I think so. Yes, I mumbled around a mouthful of Fruit Loops. I have almost $3 in my piggy bank. I took this to mean that she wanted to go with me. Go run a brush through your hair and meet me at the front door in 5. She jumped off her chair and ran down the hall, her snow boot footsteps thumping off the walls. Imogene, you are going to make yourself sick. At the end of the cart, in the middle of the pasta aisle, she was spinning in circles, her marshmallow puff winter coat tied around her waist and flaring around her like a tutu. She stopped, bounced up on her toes, and arched her arms above her head, a painful reminder that I still didn't make enough money to send her to dance class. Mom, she squeak-stepped her way to me as I was trying to find the cartoon-shaped noodles that came in a box, one of the few things my 4-year-old would eat. You should get the ones shaped like bow ties. She handed me a bag of noodles before leaping back down the aisle and calling, "They make me feel fancy!" I chuckled at her but put the bag in the cart. By the time we were ready to check out, Imogene had added Jell-O cups with chunks of fruit stuck in them because she liked the way they jiggled, and dino nuggets that she had snuck up on because it was as close as she would get to hunting dinosaurs. "Do you want to split a Reese's with me?" I shook the orange wrapped candy while we waited in line. Imogene nodded vigorously, her craving for peanut butter something she had inherited from me. I held out my pinky. "Promise not to tell your brother and sister." She linked her pinky with mine and began grabbing things out of the cart to put on the conveyor belt. Imogene walked the boxes down the belt, bouncing them from corner to corner, and introduced them to the groceries near each other before moving on to the next item. "Cheerios, say hello to broccoli and green beans." She put her hand up to her mouth and leaned in close to the cereal box. "I will make you talk to Brussels sprouts because they are gross and smelly." The teenage boy who was working the register rolled his eyes before catching sight of my diner uniform and stopping. I felt the heat rise in my face as I handed him my check and loaded my groceries back into the cart. It wasn't until we were leaving the store that I realized that Imogene hadn't spent any of her own money. "Imogene, what did you want to get at the..." I turned around to find her stopped at the charity bell ringer collecting coins for Christmas. "It's a lot of pennies." She pulled a Ziploc bag out of her coat pocket. "But that's okay, right? My granny lady says they count most because of the luck you get when you find them." The older man standing next to the collection bucket beamed and nodded. "Little lady, that is exactly right." He pulled the sticker off the roll he kept around his wrist. "Have you been a good girl this year?" "Oh, yes." Imogene finished emptying her bag into the bucket and took the sticker, slapping it on the front of her coat. "I have tried very hard to be very extra special good this year." I laughed to myself, remembering October when Imogene had hid her brother's Halloween candy because if he wasn't going to share, he didn't deserve any for himself. "So what are you going to ask Santa for?" "Wings," Imogene stated very matter-of-factly. "Wings?" "Yep, my very own wings." "Well, sweetie," he tipped his Santa hat, "I hope you get your wings." Imogene curtsied and bounced down to me. "Why wings?" I asked her as I was putting our groceries in the trunk of the car. Imogene cocked her head to the side, thinking while she pulled at the Reese's wrapper. "Because I can't reach my dreams when I'm standing on the ground." I looked at my daughter, amazed that I could still be surprised at the things that came out of her mouth. Thank you.